expecting that. I'm Paula, I'm an alcoholic. That was like my second big introduction. If you were here a couple years ago, I made my first introduction into this very room from that door right there about 25 minutes late. We were like stuck in traffic for 2.5 hours from Santa Barbara all the way here to this meeting. And John Wilson had just gotten up to the mic to start speaking. And I said, get the fuck out of here, it's my turn. And then I came up and I did it. And I already dropped an F-bomb. I knew it. I sat next to Bruce tonight and I'm like, this is my opportunity to not do that. And it's 7:15, I'm like 45 seconds in and we're like one down, however many to go. God, what a gift to be here. Sober and really, really happy about it on a Saturday evening with all of you. It's a packed room here in Alcoholics Anonymous. We drove, my husband and I drove down from San Luis Obispo area, and there's literally nowhere else I'd rather be on a Saturday evening than right here, right now with all of you. I've got some of my favorite people here. I know that you're sprinkled around here as well. And as during COVID, during early days of COVID, this whole Zoom phenomenon came, and it was awesome, and it was not, and it was awesome because we got to connect in ways that we never would have connected, or not really have had an opportunity to connect. And so Zoom your day right. I got to connect with and still continue connecting with a lot of people in that meeting, and what an absolute gift. That wherever I go, here we are, living a very different way of life, and as I said, happy about it. I'm not always happy, but I'm always grateful. I'm always grateful because I understand that I have alcoholism. I have alcoholism, and I'm just as alcoholic today at 17, almost 18 years sober as I was the drunk gal in AA, crawling into the rooms, crawling out of the rooms, blacking out, passing out in your meetings, at your Halloween parties, at your New Year's Eve bashes, I'm just as alcoholic today as I was then when I just couldn't stop drinking. Of course, dive more into that, but I understand that I have a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. So this thing that I have, alcoholism, requires me just for today to do shit about it, because I understand, because I'm alcoholic, that phenomenon of craving is still there, right? That obsession of the mind is still there. That powerlessness is still there, right? That without a power greater than myself, and without meetings like this, and without people like you, I'm fucked. So we drive 2.5 hours to share the good news of Alcoholics Anonymous because, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? I used to sit in meetings of AA, whether it be a speaker meeting, whether it be a meeting at the Alano Club, and I'd just be drunk, hiding under my hood, trying to listen to what was happening. And I just remember a couple of years before I got sober, I had court cards. Some of you might know a thing or two about those. I had a court card. I had a few court cards, and I'd go into meetings, and the person at the front of the room was speaking this language and sharing in this tone that was just drastically different than the language I was speaking and the tone in which I was speaking in. And they were doing things like looking people in the eyes and keeping their head up and talking about this happy, joyous, free step, sponsored, higher power, all this stuff. And I'd be sitting there just head in my hands, knowing that I was never, ever going to be able to get this. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Because when I came to on February 8th of 2008, February 23rd of 2008, the obsession was lifted. That need to drink was gone. It was absolutely gone. And I can tell you that the day before it was there, the day before that it was definitely there. A year before, 2 years before, the moment I started drinking, the obsession was there. I could not stop drinking even when I tried. There's a whole chapter in our book talking about all the ways in which Paula tried to control and enjoy and manage and do all this shit so that I could just make this whole drinking thing work, right? because I was a hostage to the disease of alcoholism. So I'm here, and I'm sharing a very different story with a very different tone and a very different language. And I also know that tomorrow I've got to do a version of this again because I'm still alcoholic. I grew up in an alcoholic home. It might have been like yours. It might have not been like yours. One of the things I knew growing up in this alcoholic home is that we had to look good. And there was love. There was a tremendous amount of love. It was the love that presented in like my parents coaching our sports and sitting down and doing homework with us and taking us there. And if they said, we're going to pick you up at 5:30, they would pick us up at 5:30. If we, went there, we always were together. There were always follow-throughs, except on like Friday evening or Saturday evening or like sometimes Sunday day. Alcohol would enter our household or other people's households, and we would find our way there. And I absolutely hated alcohol. Absolutely hated alcohol. We had the look good and we had the alcoholic home. We had the alcoholic home that also presented in this, like, we don't talk about what happened last night. We don't talk about mom's blacking out. We don't talk about the fact that she would take the keys and then just like run out of the house and take the car and hopefully not die. We're not going to talk about anything. We're going to wake up the next morning. We're going to like pretend. I'm going to have to shove any confusion and any feelings that I have as far into my pinky toe as possible and just start again, right? So I hated alcohol. I fucking hated it. I was never going to drink. I was never, ever going to drink. I was never going to become my mom. And that's also why I know I have alcoholism, because with every intention to not be that, to not drink, to not become my mom, I not only became her, but I like shot my way right over. And I became this version of an alcoholic that was so unfathomably sick, so unfathomably sad and pitiful. And I didn't plan for that. I wasn't going to drink. And if I was going to drink, it was going to be fun. I was going to be a party girl, and it was not going to look like that. And I'll get into that in a second, but I'm alcoholic. So even if I didn't want to drink, I drank. Even when I had the intentions to never drink, even though I didn't want to become that, I did. And then some. Growing up in that alcoholic home in this small town, there was nothing to do. I love that, like, nothing to do. There's nothing to do in Los Osos, Cal. There's nothing to do. So we just like roam around, we play sports, and then, and we just like be kids, right? We were just like kids running amok in the little town. And, people started drinking and using in like middle school, and I thought that shit was dumb because I was better then. And then like this first bout of life, like this big life thing happened when I entered middle school. This big life thing that I was not well equipped to handle as somebody who shoved my feelings as far into my pinky toe as possible. I was not well equipped to handle it. And so I just got really afraid, and I just ran away, and I just avoided, and I just didn't talk about it because that's what I knew to do. And when I got into high school and I wanted to fit in, because fitting in mattered more than the sports that I played and the person that I was, the values that I held, the good qualities that I actually did exhibit as a human being. Like, I wanted to fit in. Like, right? I was 14 years old, and like hanging out with Nate and Dominic felt like the most important thing at 14 years old. And so I was going to hang out with Nate and Dominic. And but I wasn't going to drink. So I remember we were at my friend Carrie's house. It was after a football game on a Friday night, and there's 8 of us, and it's just like, it's this classic scene out of a movie, where we're hanging out, we're like in a circle, and the bottle of Pop-Off comes around, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like, no, thank you. Because I wasn't going to drink, and then the bottle of Pop-Off came around again, and I was not going to drink. And then that third time it came around, and that handle, that 5-pound handle of Pop-Off, right, that you just have to work really hard to even get down, it just hit my lips, and it went down, and holy shit, it happened. It happened. And Pop-Off did for me what I absolutely could not do for myself. What happened in 8th grade didn't matter. My alcoholic household didn't matter. What I thought about myself didn't matter. What you thought about me didn't matter. My tan lines, my braces, my acne, didn't have it. Wasn't there. Wasn't there. Nothing mattered. Nothing mattered. I was free. I was free. And that night would essentially foreshadow what was to come, right? I kissed him and I kissed her, and it was so much fun, and we laughed, and I didn't give a shit, and it was a blast, and I fit in, and then I blacked out, and I puked, and I vomited, and I probably pissed, and more of that to come, and then I came to that next morning at Carrie's house, and oh my God, you guys, like the magic had happened, right? And somebody dropped me off at my parents' house, and it didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter that I had this cell phone at the time, one of those little like Nokia, early 2000 things that I hadn't even looked at since the night before. And I walked into my parents' house, and there they were at the top of the stairs waiting for me, and I could just see the sheer pain, sadness, and terror in their face. I didn't know that they had been essentially sending search parties out for me the night before. I didn't know that they had been calling me all night. I didn't know that they were worried, didn't sleep, and didn't know if I was going to come home, let alone if I was alive. Because before that night, I was an athlete. I was a student. I was a good student at that. I was the person that always showed up. I was respectful. I was all those things that the moment I started drinking went right out the window. So when I walked in the door and they were at the top of the stairs, I looked up, and I'm seeing the look on their faces, and my ability to care for another human being was gone. And I looked at them and I said something that I would continue saying day in and day out for years to come, and that was, "Fuck you, I'm fine." And I went down into my room, and I didn't care. I had the best night of my life the night before, the absolutely best night of my life before. So that was inconsequential. That didn't even matter. I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, what I needed to do moving forward, and it was to get that feeling, that experience, that freedom, that peace, that just ease and comfort that was always provided, soon to find out, by that first drink. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. The thing is, I instantly was alcoholic. I didn't know it. I just thought I'm a party girl. I'm a party girl, and I drink differently, though. I absolutely drink differently than the people around me. But I try to play it off. I try to play it off with, like, standing a certain way, or, like tallies on my hand, or just, like, taking a break because I can tell all the eyes are on me. Like, I know I drink different, but I'm pretending, and I'm trying to not be different. I'm trying to not be different. I'm trying to ensure that you don't know how drunk I am and how pitiful I am and how just absolutely out of my mind I am. I don't want to see the look of how disgusted you are at my drinking. I don't want to see the look of, like, oh my God, Paula's here at the party. Right? I don't want that. So I just started drinking before those parties, but it's not the point. I always drink differently. And fuck, like, what a burden to carry at 14, 15 years old, where you're already drinking differently and trying to make it work. I'm like, fuck it. Like, the moment I start drinking, I don't really care how differently I drink, because alcohol solves that problem. It makes that feeling go away. It makes those thoughts go away. I don't care. I just don't care. And so I'm the girl in high school. I'm that girl in high school. And I imagine that half this room is like that gal in high school. I go to parties and people don't want me there, and I drink so I don't care anymore. I drink and I wind up in bushes. I wind up in different cities. I wind up at random houses. I just wind up in different situations than I had signed up for at the beginning of the night. Because what happens is, when I take the first drink, or maybe I take the second, I lose the power of choice. I'm going to go out, I'm going to have a good night, I'm going to just have a few beers, I'm going to have a few shots. I'm the DD tonight, so I'm just going to have one. I take that first drink, the drink takes the drink, and then the drink takes me, and all bets are off, right? I'm alcoholic, so that's how it goes 100% of the time. And then I start doing this thing called lying. You might have heard of it. It's this thing where, like, I overshoot the mark. Oops. I'm like, a lot of whoops. Stay tuned. But a lot of whoops. I do this thing called lying, like, and I deceive myself. Like, I don't want to look at the phone the next morning, because that was just, like, pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, like, immediately. But, like, I started doing this thing, like, shit, I didn't eat. Like, I didn't eat beforehand. Or, like, I didn't take my antidepressant. Or I did take my antidepressant. I wasn't on antidepressants. Oh man, I shouldn't have drank tequila. Oh my gosh, what was in that drink? Like, I just had a reason for why I wound up there, or that happened, or that whoops, or that whoops. I always had a reason because I'm trying to like prevent any looks and any judgment and anything. I just want like, leave me alone and let me just keep doing this. And I get through high school and I do this thing that a lot of people do, go to college, and we're on our way. I'm like, where do I want to go? And I applied to these schools. I shouldn't have gotten into any of them. I scraped by high school. I think my mom probably did 80% of the work for me to just like get me out of there, get Paula out. So I'm just like, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to have a clean slate. I'm just going to like, nobody's going to know me. It's going to be wonderful. I can just start fresh. Anybody ever tried to start fresh? Just going to start fresh. You'll hear, if you're new, wherever you go, there you are. I'm like, well, maybe not though, maybe not. So I head up to Sonoma State. It's in Roner Park, in Santa Rosa area. And within the week, like my first week, we move in. The first night, I drank too much. I broke my finger. 2 days later, I have surgery. I get my first DUI, my now second drunk in public. I was kicked out of the dorms. I was in this 6-person dorm room situation, and I was kicked out of that and put into my own individual or dorm room, just one, with my own like one-on-one RA. And the book describes my alcoholic mind to a T, right? I'm at that point. I'm almost 19 years old, and I can't differentiate good from bad, right from wrong. Right? Like, I have a thought, I have a plan, and I just like execute. I just execute. I don't see a problem with getting behind the wheel of my car and just going. I don't see a problem with like drinking on an empty stomach. I don't see a problem with like showing up to a sober situation with sober people and I'm like 10 sheets to the wind. Like, I don't see a problem. What is your problem? What is your problem? So I woke up in Santa Rosa Hospital, and because I drank too much the night before. I'm what they call a liability. And it's just like this beautiful moment. You just like imagine me just like laying in the hospital, bed, and I'm like attached to whatever you're attached to when you've had way too much to drink and they've pumped you up and they've just done all the things. And what a beautiful moment of clarity. What a beautiful moment of like, wow, look how bad this got real quick. And it's not at all what happened. What happened for me is that I came to in the hospital, I looked around, and I said, I gotta go. And I literally just in gown and booties left the hospital, hitchhiked back to campus. A man in a red truck picked me up, dropped me off at my dorm room, and there I was, just drinking as if the night before nothing had happened, as if 30 minutes before I hadn't just left the hospital, as if I wasn't dying of alcoholism, as if nothing was wrong, right? So I got kicked out, and I remember getting home, and just like, I'm a victim. Like, I'm such a victim, like Officer Maggie, she arrested me 3 times in a week. What a bitch. Like, like it never occurred to me that like that was of my own doing. Like she was literally out to get me. And I remember getting this letter from the Dean of Sonoma State that essentially read, "Dear Miss Boucher, don't ever come back here ever again. Love, the Dean of Sonoma State." And what I did after I got that letter was the next day I broke into my parents' house because they required me to be out of the house during the day because they can't trust me. I'm not a trustworthy individual. I broke into their house, through a window, broke the window, cut myself, took the keys that I had just lost the privilege of driving, drove back up to Sonoma State to be with my friends, and I was just like a walking debit card. Oh, Paula's passed out, let's just like grab this, and like, they didn't know me, I didn't know them, but I went back to campus like I hadn't just opened up the letter the day before, and we're in the dorm room, and I'm like, yeah, here we are, guys, I'm back. And I literally got kicked out before even school started. And I had a beer in my hand, and I just took a first sip. And there was Officer Maggie, that bitch. And she arrested me, of course, for drunk in public. I hadn't even had more than a sip, and trespassing. And that's my story in a nutshell, right? I drink, I get arrested. I drink, I get a breathalyzer. I drink, bad shit happens. I drink, shit. So many whoops. So many whoops. And next time it's going to be different. I'm going to eat a little bit more. I'm going to drink vodka instead. I'm going to have beer. I'm going to start after 11 a.m. I'm going to stop at 6 p.m. I'm going to do it with these people. I'm not going to do it with those people. Okay, I'm not going to do it with them again and again, right? I'm going to try to find the magic combination of things to make this whole drinking thing work, right? I don't understand that I am in the crux of my alcoholism. I don't understand what alcoholism is. I just think I'm a victim of circumstance. I think that I drink and then bad things happen. So how do I drink and not have bad things happen? I don't know, but I'm going to try to figure it out. But first I'm going to go to rehab, and then I'm going to go to, I just was dying. I was dying. And I got introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous because of all the reasons that I just told you. I had a handful of court cards that my lawyer said, you probably should get these filled out. And I did. And so I went to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. It was at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Not a good time to go to your first AA meeting or any AA meeting if you have no desire to stop drinking. And so my taxi driver, mom, took me to this meeting. I just remember walking up 7 o'clock in the morning at a bank in Los Osos. And there's these people, these people, kind of look like you. These people standing outside, and they're smoking and they're drinking coffee, and they put out their hand and welcome me to AA. And I'm just here to get my card signed. I go and sit in. I just remember long tables, and just sitting there and just how do I get through this next hour, right? And I just remember getting through this meeting and thinking, no, don't sound like you, don't look like you, don't drink, no, I'm already dismissing, I'm already not part of, I already am not, right? Because the way my alcoholism works is that it will find the thing, or it will find the perceived thing, or it will just lie its little head off and say, you don't belong here. Look at these fucking people. This is pathetic. And I'm like, you're right, thank you. And I had no idea what was happening. I had absolutely no idea what was happening in that meeting. I didn't know that you guys were sharing the good news of Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't know that you were speaking my language. I didn't know the music. I didn't hear the music, right? I just knew this wasn't where I was supposed to be. And that misery just set me off into another 3 years of pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, relying on my alcoholic mind to dictate my life and not being able to stop drinking. What a conundrum, right? To have this thing that lied to me on a regular basis and to not stop drinking, not being able to stop even when I wanted to. What a conundrum. I'd come to your meetings, as I said. I'd come to your meetings and I'd sit down. And I'd be there for 2 minutes, and I just was crawling out of my skin, and I'd have to leave. I'd leave out the side door. I'd leave out the back door. I'd go to the liquor store around the corner. I'd buy the 40. I'd drink the 40 in the bathroom. I'd come back just to sit and exist, because alcoholism had me by the neck, and I couldn't stop drinking. I knew I was never going to be able to stop drinking. I just knew it. I absolutely knew it. No amount of DUIs, no amount of drunken publics, no amount of looks, torn relationships, destroyed relationships. Nobody wanted anything to do with me, right? And with all that, I still couldn't stop. I absolutely couldn't stop. And so what happened for me is on New Year's Eve of 2007, going into 2008, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to drink. I'm going to go to the AA function at the Odd Fellows Hall in Morro Bay. That's the plan. That's the plan at 8 a.m. and by 10 a.m. I know I'm going to buy champagne to celebrate, and I'm gonna drink one before the AA function just to get a little loose. And just to feel comfortable enough, just to have fun at the AA function. And then I'm going to put the other one in my purse. And that's exactly what I did. And all I remember was just coming to, laying just passed out on the curb out front of the AA Oddfellows Hall New Year's Eve party. And I just remember looking up, and there was my now ex-boyfriend and his 6-year-old daughter, who I was meeting there. And I just looked at them. They just looked at me, and just one more time, I just disappointed people. I just tore apart their hearts. I just did it one more time. And back into the blackout I went. So I couldn't continue going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings in that area because you knew me. I burned too many bridges. I gotta go. I gotta go start fresh. So I wound up in Orange County in a sober living in a gated community, and I can't stop drinking. And I can't be honest about it either. So on February 22nd of 2008, I got on the train to come back up to San Luis Obispo to have a weekend with my parents. They thought it would have been like our first sober weekend in a very, very long time. To their understanding, I had been sober for 3 weeks at that point. And to my understanding, I was going to get on the train, and I was just going to have one beer. I was just going to have one beer. And one beer led to two led to three led to Bloody Marys. Now I'm drinking with everybody else around me on the train. The conductor's buying me alcohol, thank you. Same dance, different day. Blackout, pass out, lost my shit. Like literally, still don't know where my stuff is. And we pulled into the train station in San Luis Obispo, and I'm in a blackout, right? I'm in a blackout, and all I remember is just stumbling off the train and just being struck sober for just a moment, the split moment. And I just looked up, and there were my parents, and the look on their faces of, oh my God, what are we going to do with you? You know, and that wasn't a foreign look for me, right? Whether it be from them, somebody I was dating, a friend of mine, the mailman, you name it, right? Like, that wasn't a foreign look for me. And for whatever reason, that moment, I knew exactly who I was and what I needed to do. And back into the blackout I went. And I came to that next morning on February 23rd of 2008, and I haven't had a drink since. And that, I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know that the obsession had been lifted. I didn't know that I wasn't in the grips of alcoholism that morning. I didn't know anything. I had no idea. What I knew is that I had one more time killed my parents, broken their hearts, broken any semblance of trust, any thread of respect, any just little bit was gone. I didn't leave that room for 2 days. And on that Sunday, they probably very forcefully put me back on that train. And I came back to Orange County. And I wound up at the Canyon Club there in Laguna Beach. And that 7 a.m. meeting saved my life. It became my home group. I began this process of going to 3 to 5 meetings a day. I didn't have anything going on. Shocking. I didn't know until months later what had happened that night, right? I didn't know for months later that God had absolutely done for me what I couldn't do for myself. And thank God I stuck around long enough to see, to know, to acknowledge, to say, wow, thank you. I tried 1,000,000 times over to not drink. I planned it. I tried to execute it. I fucking tried to will it. I would put it on my calendar. I would text people about it. I would try. And I meant it. I meant it. Every time I told my parents I'm not going to, I meant it. Every time I tell my boss, I'm not going to do that again, I meant it. Every time I tell my friends, I promise you, I am not going to drink tonight. I will not drink tonight. I meant it. But I'm an alcoholic, and I don't get a vote in whether I drink or not. I do not have a vote in whether I drink or not. I'm powerless. That fucker has control over me. So I'm really grateful I stuck around long enough to see the magic happen. To see the magic happen. You guys talk about the magic all the time. You talk about that really crucial moment in your stories of what happened. What happened, right? So I was in Laguna Beach. I was in Orange County, and I don't want to drink. I don't want to drink. So I'm good. Don't need. Do not need. I don't want to drink. I don't need. I don't want to drink. Don't need. I go to meetings. Nothing's changing. I'm just like, there was a meeting down in Orange County called the Sober Horse Thieves. What do you get when you sober up a horse thief? A drunk horse thief. You get a sober horse thief, right? What do you get when when you sober up a drunk, low self-esteem, needs validation, has no plan for life, you just get that just sober. That's what you get. That's what you get from me. I have no idea what to do. Absolutely no idea what to do. So I just come to meetings and I wear short shorts and little tank tops and I sit on old men's laps and I just think this is it, right? This is it. And this woman, she had 9 months of sobriety ahead of me. And Linda Brown, God, she was just this on fire. If there's anybody with 9 months of sobriety, that person is on fire for AA. That 6 month, that 9 month of sobriety, just on fire. That Linda Brown was on fire for sobriety. And, she was so cool. And she pulled me aside after a 7 a.m. Sunday morning meeting. And she goes, "Hey, Paula, why don't you start doing something with Alcoholics Anonymous? Get a sponsor, start working the steps. We've got this pancake breakfast going on right now. Why don't you come with me, help me in the kitchen? Let's get into action here." And my first thought when she said that to me was, she's jealous. She's jealous. And my second thought was, fuck you, fuck you. I'm fine. I'm fine. And at 6 months of sobriety, I was living back in that childhood bedroom, no longer in Orange County, and I was going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, and I wasn't working steps, and I didn't have a sponsor beyond in name, and I was dying of alcoholism. I was dying of alcoholism, and I didn't even have alcohol in my system. I was dying of alcoholism. And I woke up on a Thursday morning in such excruciating pain, And I did something that I had never done before because out of sheer desperation, I had no choice. I hit my knees and I said a prayer that I had never sincerely said before. And it was, "God, please help me. I can't do this anymore." It's like the classic alcoholic prayer. But I had no attachment to "God, please help me. I'll never do it again if you just get me out of jail this one time." Right? I swear to God, I'll never drink again if you just get me out of it. If you could just, right? I used to pray all the time. But that morning, I did something that I had never done before, and it was pray. And then shortly thereafter, what followed was I picked up the phone and I took action. And I called a woman. I had just gotten her number the day before, Melissa, and I didn't know who she was. I didn't know her from fucking Dale, But somebody gave me her number, and I said that prayer, and I called that number, and she said, "Let's meet for coffee." And something incredible happened. I said okay, and then I followed through. I showed up. And I just swear to God, the doors opened thereafter. I didn't know it at the time, but I did a third step. I took the third step that day. I made a decision to start doing things differently, and I just made a difference. Like I made a right-hand turn. Like I am a left-hand turn gal. I am a left-hand turn gal, self-will. Here's what I want. Here's how it's going to go. And I was out of ideas. I was completely out of ideas. And I made a decision to start doing things differently, and I haven't looked back since. My life here in Alcoholics Anonymous has been a sequence of wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. Like, I'm so alcoholic though, I'm like, okay, but wait, there has to be like something. Is there like a lather? Is there like a condition? Like, is there something else that I could just, no, wash, rinse, repeat. Okay. Like I just started doing things differently. I'd come to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'd show up on a weekly basis and start working the steps with this woman. I learned how to tell the truth. I learned what it meant to start showing up without canceling 5 minutes before, without like showing up 15 minutes late, without not showing up at all. This woman and these people in these meetings taught me how to just suit up and show up. Taught me how to be a daughter, taught me how to be a sister, taught me how to be a friend. Over time, taught me how to be a girlfriend, taught me how to be a student, taught me how to be an employee, taught me how to be a grad student, taught me how to be a wife. Like, you guys have taught me how to be a person amongst people who isn't sucking the life out of others, who isn't trying to like will the shit out of my life and yours, because like, I still want to go left. My life, a day at a time, looks nothing like it did when I was crawling into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. Nothing, right? Like when I was about 3 years sober, when I was about 5 years sober, I was at home and it's one of those things, right? Like we say the third step prayer, we say the serenity prayer. Like a lot of this stuff can like become very like lip service. I love AA in action. I love AA in action because that's actually the shit that matters is AA in action. It was a Sunday evening and it was 8:30 at night and I got this phone call. The phone rang. I knew exactly who it was going to be. I knew exactly what he was going to say. And I knew that I couldn't answer it because my brother was dying of alcoholism. And I couldn't one more time answer the phone and hear the bullshit, to hear the alcoholism, to hear all the plans and all the, the long drawn out stories about this life that he has while he's sitting on a sofa in this shitty apartment in Grover Beach, smoking and drinking himself to death with like burn holes and beer cans all over the place. I couldn't do it. I absolutely couldn't do it. And AA has taught me to suit up and show up, and that I am responsible. Even if it's my brother, that I am responsible. When an alcoholic reaches out, I am responsible to pick up the phone. I am responsible to reach my hand out. And so I did. And what happened is that when I answered the phone, I answered it, and my brother, he was screaming, he was crying, and he was hitting his bottom. And he said, I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. I need help. Please help me. And I did what you guys taught me here in Alcoholics Anonymous. I gave him a man's number in AA. And I didn't know. I didn't know that he was going to call this guy. I didn't know that he was going to go to his first AA meeting the next day. And I didn't know that he was going to be sober all these years later, right? And I was sure as shit very, very clear about the fact that I knew what that phone call was going to be. If I just allow God, right? If I just allow God to do God's work, if I can just do the footwork and allow my higher power, allow God to just do what God does, I can be privy, I can be present for all these gifts in my sobriety. And that's just one. That's just one of many throughout the last 17 years of my sobriety. Right? Through these years in sobriety, I've been able to clean up the wreckage of my past. Remember when I did amends to my parents? And let me tell you, like, I hated my mom. when I got sober. Right? I told you, I actually blamed my mom for a lot of the shit that I went through. I hated her. I was, just short of a year sober, and I was still telling her, I fucking hate you, and I hope you die. Right? I was filled with rage. I was filled with pain and hurt. And when I went to go make my amends to both my parents, something happened. Right? Something happened when I took contrary action, when I just sat in front of them and I owned my shit. I don't own my shit, right? But AA and the 12 steps have shown me to own my shit, to absolutely own it, clean up the wreckage of my past, and do the right thing, And I made this amends to these people who, mind you, I had just broken their hearts day in and day out, time and time and time again. And I made this amends, and they just sobbed. And they just said that they were so grateful that they have their daughter back. And something happened that day where that resentment, that anger, everything just washed away. It just completely washed away. Now, I can tell you that throughout the years of my sobriety, it has come back, because I'm still a human being with human feelings, and I still love those first 3 columns in the 4th step. Who do I hate? Why? And how does it affect me? I love those first 3 columns. I love them. At the top of the 4th column in the fourth step, writing, putting aside the wrongs of others, real or imaginary. Where had I been selfish, self-seeking, dishonest, and frightened? Where had I been, right? Because it's not about them. It's not about that. It's not about this. It's about this, right? And as a result of just doing things differently, right, of coming here, continuing to hang out with you guys, my God, I have a life beyond my wildest dreams. A life beyond my wildest dreams. I remember people sharing about that in early sobriety, and I just thought, what a crock of shit, right? What an absolute crock of shit. And in reflection, I used to wake up, come to on a regular basis, and want to die. I used to come to on a regular basis, want to die, and not have a choice in what was going to happen that day. I used to come to on a regular basis, want to die, not have a choice. And then what would happen is that I would drink, I would stop caring, and really bad things would happen. Really, really bad things would happen. I would find myself in situations that would put me in danger. I would continually put others in danger. And this ability to care and love was gone, was absolutely gone. So the fact that this morning I woke up clean and sober and happy about it, with tremendous gratitude for the life that I live, for the simplistic life that I live, this incredible, full life that I live that is quite literally about service. And I want it to be about me. I want it to be about me often. And then I hear this little thing back here that's just like, go show up for the other person, right? As we were driving here, I'm going to end with this. When we were driving here, we spent the first 30 minutes on the phone talking to my stepson, and just a beautiful gift of recovery. And I just got to listen to my husband and his son talking, heart to heart, about life, about what he's doing. And I would have missed out on all of this, right? I would have missed out on that. I would have missed out on this. I would have missed out on all of it. And I'm so, so grateful for my life in AA. Thank you.